I'm Nicole Shanahan, Bobby Kennedy's running mate. Welcome to Back to the People podcast, which highlights the growth of a movement uniting America, where our government is free from corporate capture and where we give voice back to the American public. When we talk about healing, we get caught up in medications and...
It begins with healing your spirit, your heart, your soul.
What wants to come forward right now?
Can you imagine if all our leaders throughout the world took those three simple values and used it in every question?
There's a lot of sadness across America right now that we've come so far from that intentionality of caring for one another.
We all breathe the same air. We're responsible for these things and to ensure that they're going to be there for all those that come after us.
It'd be great if we could put all members of Congress through that program.
They might have to come to Kauaʻi and get their feet muddy in the taro patch.
Yes.
Or in the fish pond.
Sabra, the first introduction I had to you was in 2017. I was watching the film ʻāina. You came on the screen to discuss what ʻāina means. Mm-hmm. And I was mesmerized by you.
Thank you.
What does ʻāina mean?
ʻāina literally means that which feeds you.
That which feeds you.
The land that feeds you, that which feeds you. Not just in food that you eat, but in knowledge and aloha that you bring in and then you're able to give out.
When we think about being fed, it's our bellies.
Yes, your spirit, your soul, your whole being. Mm-hmm. And that's what many people are able to do here on Kauaʻi, is to restore their bodies, their spirits, their lives, and to find their purpose.
How does that work? It's a magic that comes from somewhere.
This island has always been known for its healing powers.
Yeah.
There's so much that people are able to do here in nature, in walking, in surfing, in being of service to the community, and that's where many people find their path, is in being of service to the community.
When we talk about healing, oftentimes we get caught up in this idea of hospitals and medications and doctors. But healing in the Hawaiian tradition in a very ancient tradition, has meant something different. How?
It begins with the spirit. It begins with healing your spirit, your heart, your soul. Mm-hmm. And then your body will be healed. But it begins inside.
There's so much fear going on the mainland, and the pandemic really shook a lot of communities. What wants to come forward right now? What is the thing that wants to be heard and seen again?
I know, living here in the islands, being born here in the islands, and being nurtured by our kupuna, our elders, and kupuna can be someone very young. Being open to understand the values. We say the word aloha all the time because it has value. But in Hawaiian thought, ʻāina is one of the three values: family, water, and land.
Family, water, and ʻāina, that which feeds you.
That which feeds you. But these three things, can you imagine if all of our leaders throughout the world took those three simple values and used it in every question that they had, addressing the multitudes? That, I feel, in understanding ʻāina, ʻohana is a value that there is no expression. There's nothing that you can put on that value of family. And if every leader asks that question, my decision, how will it affect my family? How will it affect my resources, the water, and most especially, how will my decision affect the land that feeds me? You know, we can take every country into consideration and look at their leaders and see those people, because there were those that took that as a primary resource of wisdom. Yeah. And when you think how Spirit has laid us out on this world, throughout the world, everything that you need in whatever country you are, just like here in Hawaii, all the things that you need to maintain and take care of your body, your spirit, your soul is right around you. You don't have to go to Germany to get a special serum, or, you know, to China to get a special herb. You can find it right where you're at. So, you know, wisdom is a shared experience that is found in every culture.
Yeah.
And so if we look at what was prepared for us and set into motion, this is all we're really carrying forward, is what we have been given and how we maintain it, and then how we share it.
It seems like there's a real hunger right now in the world for your teachings and leadership. It's almost as if all of our other leaders have let us down, and there's this great hunger of humanity calling for wisdom teachers. And you're on the road all the time.
Sabra will attest to this. Our ali'is traveled, and they made peace agreements around the world. In Japan, in Austria, they went everywhere. And these peace agreements are still in play. My younger brother went to The Hague to ask for a place for aloha. And so if you go there and you sit at that table, you'll see the kukui nut lay on a chair, and it says in the name of aloha, that seat is there. Now, aloha, we express it in many ways, but the idea of aloha is really the highest pono, or the highest good. So it's a seat for God. But it goes back to the intention of wanting the world to understand that we all breathe the same air. We all have the same things, and that we're responsible for these things and to ensure that they're going to be there for all those that come after us, just like our kupuna did. And that's in every culture. So, you know, we are traveling, and we do go to places, and we do support the community that we are visiting, but it really is that connection that we have. We are all part of this ocean of time, right? And so we motion from moment to moment. But what makes it a reality is the interchange, the relationship that is created in the so-called talk story. When we're able to appreciate the grace and beauty of other people, you know, and that only happens when you make the time to sit and listen. So I attribute a lot of who we are from our kupuna, but even more from the people that we've been gifted or blessed to be in their presence and be able to see and feel them.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sentiment. Sabra, you work with so many children. What is it like right now in this time of, you know, real division in our country to remind children that of this gift of presence amongst each other?
I think our children here on Kauaʻi are, well, we're all blessed to be here. At the school where I teach, many of them travel to fun places, you know. But there are also children that come from faraway lands. And to be here on Kauaʻi and to meet their classmates and get to know other children, I think is very important to them. It's very important to them to know that they can be friends with people who are very different from them, but maybe have the same interests and the same fun. I want my students to know the diversity that exists here on our island and in the world. Many of them are aware of that. Many of them know that they can be friends with people of different walks of life, different cultures, and it begins when they're young.
I'm oftentimes asked about the situation in Gaza, and we're all praying for a solution.
Absolutely.
You shared, Puna, this morning of Molokai being on the exact opposite end of the planet with Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And you said something to me that is still blowing my mind right now. That there's roots in ancient Hawaiian language with roots in Hebrew.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes. So it would be really not thoughtful to think that our home and our people did not have some form
Connection.
of written language, right? And so our kupuna put to sleep the language. I'm going to say this because this is exactly what happened. All of the allodial patents that design longitude and latitude of England, of America, it's all measured by longitude and latitude. Ours was written in our written language. Our kupuna believed that if people knew how to write our language, they would be able to change the archipelago and the kuleana that was set into play by not just our kupuna, but as we understand, io, or the pona, or the highest point of goodness. And so they put it to sleep, and they helped us to understand, to do everything orally. But in the prophecies that we're all raised with, we knew there would be a time of huliau. Yeah? Huli is to turn things back, turn it and bring it back. And it was going to come at a time where the islands, I'm going to say, our Hawaiian islands, were going to re-establish the language. Not just the language that you hear, but the language that you write. And so, if you follow the story of our education, Hawaiian language was not even being spoken at Kamehameha schools when we were going there because we didn't have teachers per se, but knew that this huliau was going to happen and the language would be rebirthed. And so, as I say, prophecy. We've all been grown with that understanding that this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Everything is going to unfold. And, people say it's signs, but they would unfold in time and be aware that they're coming. And most especially, be aware of the indigo children that are coming to our earth because they hold the wisdoms of our ancestors. They're bringing things back. So I come back to that idea of language, and probably shocking to you, but not to us. We know that the return of the ancestral tribes is not Kanaka. It is Jew and Hebrew. And that they come back bearing gifts of not just knowledge, but of self. So, if we look at our earth and we understand, especially the people, that live on the waters, the idea of sharing has always been. Hokulea is a very visible expression of exactly that thought. Traveling around the globe, area to area, through natural navigation, or we say through spirit, stepping at all the places of the earth and uniting them in one thought. And that thought is peace or aloha.
And you had said that the similarity with Hebrew is Elohim. Yeah.
Same word.
Elohim.
Yeah.
That's right.
Same word, meaning the same thing. So when you think of that word aloha, alo, this space, this place that we're sharing now, and ha, that breath. If you look at the acronym, you understand and you can appreciate how it teaches us to be with ourselves. In that letter, in the first letter, akahai, point to yourself. Right now, just point to yourself. Yeah? Akahai, kindness. Auntie Pilahipaki, she put into a very simple form of appreciation these words and clarified them. Akahai, to be kind to yourself, is the first and most important expression of caring for your spirit. Because if you're kind to yourself, the ability for you to be kind to others it comes from a place of abundance. So taking care of yourself, being mindful of your needs is first. In the understanding of that word, the second letter was lokahi. So right here, we're lokahi, we're a family because we're sharing thought and we're sharing feelings and expressions, right? So imagine the whole world, lokahi, one family. So appreciating yourself and then appreciating your family. And then the third letter, olu olu. I like to use that word olu olu because we all have people in our lives that, when you think of your daughter, Echo, that essence.
Yeah.
There's no words to describe that essence, right? No. Well, in Hawaiian thought, olu olu.
Olu olu.
Olu olu. People call your name. When you reference your grandparents, your aunties, your uncles, people that nurtured you as you grew, there's a way and the vibration in their voice that touches you. That's olu olu. You just can't wrap your hands around that. It just fills you up. So in our expression of you, akahai, lokahi, your family, that olu olu is what surrounds us. Yeah, that's community. So if we take those three things into consideration and make it part of our character of who we are, the word that comes later is ha'aha'a. Ha'aha'a is to be humble, to recognize that we weren't meant to be on this earth by ourselves, that it was important that we touch. It was important that we touch everything, that we are a part of everything. Yeah, being ha'aha'a is recognizing our needs as a people, to need one another. Yeah. To be a part of that larger expression of life. But you see, the order is simple. Yourself, your family, your community, and then the extension of how you interact with all of these. Natural kuleana, or nature's law.
Nature's law.
And then the last letter is ahonui, patience. We need patience to do all. Akahai, lokahi, olu, and ha'a. We need that patience. And so when we have that as fundamental foundation of who we are as an individual and part of a community, it helps us to appreciate the relationship that we have with all those that are put into our hands. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So that appreciation is really what our intention is all about. Understanding that what happens on the other side of the world still will affect us.
Yes.
It's still part of who we are.
It is, and the young people feel it, and now with social media, they see it every day. It reminds us of that we're one family.
I pray for peace around the world every day. Every night I pray for peace.
We also talked about finding a way to just get hate to move out. I use the word exorcism. You said, Puna, he's like, that's a strong word. We have another word that might a better fit. And it can be achieved through ceremony, and it can be achieved through coming together. And I don't want to misstate the word, but can you remind me that word?
Ho'oma'e.
To cleanse, to clean, to clear out.
To replace, to bring things back. So our children are always taught to, after they've played and, brought out their books, say, ho'oma'e, go and put things back. Make it the way it was, how it was given to you, and even better. Yeah. But that idea, if we are looking at the world, everything in every area of our world, everything that was needed could be found right around them, as I said earlier. And a lot of that was the values that were taught in the home, brought up with, put into the food, into the soil. Everything was a collective attitude of not just responsibility, but grace. The idea of doing the absolute best that you could and giving the best that was. When you read all of the stories of our ancients, they all say the same thing. People would come, they gave the best of what they had, because that was the culture and the practices that were rooted in the attitudes of all of these different countries. And when you see it from grassroots, we can go to any part of the world that hasn't been overextended. I'm going to use that word, overextended. And you'll find that these things are still practiced. How do we get the rest of the world to be a part of that? It's all part of intention, to put things back, to give back, to return.
It's an incredibly powerful concept. It's foundational to the survival of all life.
So energetically, when you think about what it is that we're talking about, because we really are speaking about energy, right? Positive and balance. The understanding of this in our hands can easily become this and alter. So if we take every challenge that we have that are in our hands and lift it up and create and alter, the ability for us to make a change is instant because the energy that we put to that effort has already created motion and movement and change. In our language, we're mindful of what we say and how we say it. And so, you create energy by what you say and what you do. And if someone was unkind, I wouldn't say the definition of unkind because that is an energy, right? But I could say without kindness. So, a'ole, ahonui, yeah, this is missing. So we leave a place for that to be filled with kindness. Yeah. So the idea of balance and being mindful of what you say and how you say it. My parents never spanked us. We didn't know what that was. But we would be in tears by what they said, not by how they said it, but what they said. Because they pa'i'd us nicely, but you're in tears because you realize what they're saying is, this is disappointment because you know better.
Did your parents speak to you in Hawaiian?
My parents both spoke Hawaiian, but we needed to answer in English. My parents were very strong in their cultural beliefs and practices, and so they wanted us to succeed in the world today. And they felt that if we could go between the two languages, know the values, know and understand what the words meant, but respond in English, that we would succeed in education.
And did you notice a difference between when your parents spoke with you or wanted to get through a challenging teaching moment? Was there a difference for you when it was delivered in Hawaiian versus English?
Oh,
was
yes.
it more?
Hawaiian, there was a few words. English, there was a lot of words.
Oh.
But in Hawaiian, it was...
Just had to say 2 or 3 things and you got
And
it.
that,
Wow.
But same with Puna in my family too. My tutus, my kupuna, my elders always spoke Hawaiian, but it was very much impressed on us that we needed to learn English. And when I was at Kamehameha School, the 3 languages that were taught were Latin, French, and Spanish in that order. And I was in the Latin section. And I don't regret it because I can understand botanical words, scientific words, and that kind of thing. And it gives you a good basis for learning European languages like French and Spanish, which I've always loved the sound of. But we always sang in Hawaiian. We always prayed in Hawaiian. So I always heard it as a child. And to this day, I love singing in Hawaiian.
I've been told by several people who have learned hula that it is a direct communication with nature and God and spirit. I hear that as it would be amazing to speak the language of nature, but in English we just can't. Or can we? I find it so different when it comes out of someone's mouth. Like Hawaiian fits into this melody, this frequency that's so different than the spoken English language, which I find doesn't quite fit that frequency that nature communicates in.
You know, our kupuna, how they spoke, the voice, the vibration, the expression came through the voice. It wasn't just the words. And when I hear kupuna, my kupuna of the past, my elders, It's melodic in their flow of words. We have different expressions in today's time. If you are on Ni'ihau and you listen, I'm going to say that their Hawaiian is clipped. They leave out any adjectives in their conversation. It's abrupt and it's quick. And so, like, if I wanted to say to you, oh, mai o'oi, come with me. Mai o'oi, haleku ai, I'll come with me, I'll take you to the store, right? But you hear my voice and how I'm speaking. And so it's inviting. Not to say that Ni'ihauan way of expressing that same thing, but u'a, haleku ai, yeah, that's it. So u'a is calling you, yeah, and then the hale that serves the food, you want to go?
Yeah.
It's not wrong. It's a style, yeah? It really is a style. So my kupuna, when they spoke, it was very melodic. And much of what they were saying to you came through the voice, came through the sound. When Sabra was talking about the different vowels and consonants, I want to say formal expression of the Hawaiian language, formal expression, you would hear the cadence of music in the way they spoke. In today's time, University of Hawaii, the Hawaiian language that is being expressed is, I'm going to say, a more modern reference because they're trying to align it with practices of the use of the English language. So when you're sitting with kupuna and they're speaking, you'll hear the cadence in their voice. And University of Hawaii Hawaiian, that's not always found.
That's wonderful. Well, changing topics now. The whole world was watching the Lahaina fires.
Yeah.
And there was enormous outrage from all over about how the government responded. This is a community in Maui that has, for many generations, fought very hard to keep homes in Hawaii. And I went to college with several Native Hawaiians in Washington State, and the stories I would hear were about how, it's becoming more and more difficult to Native Hawaiians to own homes in Hawaii. And so watching the Lahaina fires was very much this moment of, oh my gosh, are we going to respond properly to make sure that these homes get rebuilt and returned to the Native Hawaiians who own them? What could have been done better? What can be done right now?
Well, it's going to be a very long rebuilding process, but they are in the process of it, and I pray for them every day that they will be successful in their rebuilding of the community, of their homes and their lives. It was a tragic loss of life. It was a tragic loss of people and homes, and I'm sure these lessons will never be forgotten in the future. And if you'll notice on our island as you drive around, our local Kauaʻi utilities company, they have been trimming all these trees, especially the ones that are right along the high voltage lines, which I see coming across the valley over here, but they're very high. There's a real recognition of the need to prepare because our weather is changing. The last 2 years here on Kauaʻi, we were very dry. It was a bit of a drought. We've gotten a bit more rain this year already than we have in the 2 years past. But we all need to be mindful and careful of the danger of fires. It was really tragic, and I'm sure the Those who are in power to make the decisions at that time have learned lifelong lessons from this. They may have made errors that I'm sure they will never repeat.
Yeah. The sovereignty movement. I have connected with community organizers working towards the sovereignty movement in Hawaii. If you come from a culture of ʻāina, the sovereignty movement makes sense if you see the current governance of your homeland going in a direction that is not ʻāina. It seems only logical. Sovereignty movements are very hard. In the United States, we've never had anything that has resulted in a state breaking off from the Union. To me, it seems that the two biggest issues are Native Hawaiians living in Hawaii and owning homes and owning land. And then really governance and protecting what is sacred. I mean, these islands have hundreds of sacred sites on them, and the average developer doesn't get it.
That's why we have to talk to them. We have to educate them. We have to teach them about our sacred places and why they're sacred. We have to get them to understand, just as an example, the aquifers, the water systems on our island. Yeah, that place may look dry now, but there are times when it floods, you know? Take heed from the environment. Take heed from the culture before you. Listen and learn before you plan. I have more classmates probably living away from Hawaii than I do living here. There's tons of them in Texas and Utah and Nevada and Washington and Oregon, even Chicago and all these places where my classmates have moved to make a living and to be able to own land and a home and raise their families there. But they all still feel a tie to Hawaii. And when we meet for our reunions, it's just wonderful to see them all again. I mean, I myself was called home over 30 years ago. 87, I came home because I felt the call to be of service here in Hawaii.
So, you speak about Native Hawaiians, and so if you're referencing the people who have indigenous blood to these islands, no matter how much, how little, and they're considered to be Native, if you recognize the rest of the world, if you're born in Africa, what are you? African. If you're born in China, you're considered Chinese. Doesn't matter your racial extraction or ethnicity, correct? Why is Hawaii different? We have children born and raised as long as they can stretch their arm here that may not have one drop of Kanaka blood, and they are considered non-Hawaiians, yet born and raised here in the islands. The rule here in Hawaii is different because of the blood quantum for Hawaiian homelands. It sets our people apart. And I think I told you earlier, there is no Hawaiian word in our language. And if you're talking the Hawaiian language, everything is about inclusive. Now this rule or law, many Kanaka would say, Puna, why are you talking in this fashion? Because this is to benefit people who are Kanaka, half. So I say to them, my grandchildren, through me, has a quarter because the other parents, their parents, are not. Born and raised here in the islands. Do I separate my mo'opuna?
No.
But how the system is set up regarding land here on island, and all the islands, is not a Hawaiian practice. So I'm glad you asked that question, because logically, throughout the world, everybody is recognized by where they're born. Not what they are, but where they're born. So we have this continued interpretation of colonial rules that go completely against our culture.
Because the culture believes in the interconnectedness of one family. Is that right? Anyone can practice ʻāina.
Yes, it is something that the world shares. It's not just found here.
We have a common friend who organizes gatherings of wisdom keepers from all different cultures, and you both have participated in these gatherings. What's that experience been like for you?
Absolutely amazing. It's
Fabulous.
just incredible, fabulous,
Fabulous.
unbelievable to on Zoom, to be in touch with these people from all over the world. And all of us are praying for peace. All of us are praying for happiness and safety and camaraderie and aloha, basically. We're all praying for that. We're all praying for peace and understanding. And to be able to feed the children. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful way to pull us together on a worldwide level. You know, without having to travel there and raise money and fly and all of these things, we can gather in spirit.
Thank goodness to
Thank
the
goodness.
technology that we have.
Thank goodness.
Seems like a really good use of technology.
Oh
It's
my
a very
goodness.
good use of technology.
You know, you're so young, but we're from the time of the Flintstones on TV and, you know, the
Black and white
Jetsons
TV.
and all those things. We've lived in both times, right? I have Facebook because of my granddaughter who was like 7 years old, and she wanted me to know what she was doing. And so, yeah,
That's
she
wonderful.
set it up for me. Going like, honey, she goes, Grammy, you're going to see me playing soccer. Let me do this for you. What I'm saying is technology
It's amazing, yeah.
in our lives, we've been able to view and see and experience what we thought eventually would come, and now we're living it.
Is there anything about technology that worries you?
The ability for
Misinformation, you know,
the
to be
ability
spread
for
so quickly.
I'm gonna say the inexperienced can interpret what they read and what they see in a way that that is really hurtful to them. You know, that I would frown upon. Is things need to come when it's the proper time.
Well, it seems like if we treated technology with those three principles, you know, care for yourself, care for your family, and ʻāina,
Yeah, that's resources.
technology wouldn't have such a heavy dark side to it. It seems like those three principles, when applied across to everything,
Yes.
make everything better.
We call it Hawaiian money.
Oh, really?
Yep. People, whoa, this is Hawaiian money, family, the water and land.
Have you seen some of the alarming data on birth rates falling around the world?
I've heard of it, but I haven't really looked into it, you know?
I notice in Hawaii, families are growing at a very good rate here. I see so many babies and pregnant women when I'm here.
Yes.
And then when I'm on the mainland, it's like a fraction. My guess is it has to do with environmental health and connection to nature. You know, the science is starting to show it, but intuitively that would make sense.
It's so true. But there is a time, a real time and place for that to happen. We have a lot of babies having babies. So we must be mindful and help in the situation, because oftentimes these children are given to grandparents, aunties, uncles, and reared in that fashion. In today's time, children are gifts. They have always been. But to be able to recognize them and being so young and not understanding the kind of responsibility that goes in rearing and caring for a child, that is something that I'm going to say society, in the opportunity of having information, this is what I'm saying about timing, that they receive the information and the understanding and the kuleana that goes with it, you know, and not bits and pieces. But life has been, for all of us, you know, the struggle to be able to survive in today's time. Living here in Hawaii, we're expected to do all the extra in order to stay here in the islands. But should we have a moratorium that says, unless you've been in the islands or you have family ties to the islands, that you cannot buy in this area or that area? You know, that will never happen. It's all part of this huge bowl of choices, and why it's so important that we have leaders that come with their hearts, body, and spirit, helping to usher in these needed reminders of life.
Yeah, I feel like we are in a moment of putting things back.
It's very much time to do that. We need to do that.
I was, thinking about the campaign. Politics can be such an opportunity to remember core values and to define intention. So it's not just a race. It's really this opportunity to bring intention and prayer to this very important role of governance. In this moment, do you think the United States government could practice these three principles across all of its functions, agency, foreign policy? I mean, it's possible, right? We're not so far from anything is possible. I mean, you had said just a moment ago that it can all happen in a moment. There's a lot of sadness across America right now, and a lot of hopelessness that we've come so far from that intentionality of caring for one another with competency and grace. But you believe it's possible, and it could be something that could happen not overnight, but maybe over a period of a few years.
It is absolute, and it's what we know is very possible. When people care about one another, it's very hard, very, very hard to go up against that, right? Here on island, we have a program, and we call it Leadership Kauaʻi, but let me tell you how that came to be. A brainchild of a very wonderful woman, Barbara Curl, wanted to see aloha in government. Basically, that's really what she said. And we believed we could grow leaders. So we really wanted to influence the children at school and grow them together, because we saw the constant in-house arguments and discussions that went nowhere with our county council and people, And so he said, how can we eliminate that? I mean, what can we do to change it? And so I said, let's grow the leaders. Well, we had to grow the adults before we could grow the leaders. But it was with that attitude of coming together and working on projects and growing. And all the businesses sent people from their troops to come and be part of this leadership group on island. And I'm happy to say we celebrated the 20th year anniversary.
Has it been that long
Congratulations.
already?
This weekend. When it began, you had people from governance, you had people from education, you had people from the hospitals, all coming together, and they would meet once a month and do projects, work together, learn about each other's businesses. And we had people from all over. Deepak Chopra came, leaders that were renowned to come and just talk about their style of leadership. And through that effort, these people grew. I'm proud to say we've had 4 of our mayors come out of our classes over the years, and councilmen and councilwomen, and all raised together, working on projects, and then coming into the situation of being the leaders that we look up to in today's time. But that was, as I said, I'm sure that's how it was done in the past.
Really?
Because people would volunteer to do something and then help one another to help to make that happen, right? So now we have this program in the schools, I'm happy to say. And so the children are learning to work with each other on projects that affect the community. And I think that that is exactly what government is all about.
It'd be great if we could put all of Congress, all members of Congress through that program.
They might have to come to Kauaʻi and get their feet muddy in the taro patch.
Yes.
Or in
Yep.
the fish pond. Build spirit, build camaraderie.
And practicing traditional
Yes.
cultivation of the land.
And the great thing about after all your work, you sit down and you ingest all the food that you help to harvest, and it's just
You work hard
and you learn.
play hard, and then
Yeah.
you eat well.
Well,
It seems like probably the most fair exchange we can have as humans is that when you give to the land gives to you back, and
it.
you can taste and be nourished
yes,
by the gifts and that reciprocity.
yes.
And your hard work.
Yeah. Going back to that seems like it's everything.
Yeah.
You cycle back to it time and time again.
I believe the world is at that point right now, everywhere.
Yeah.
All the cultures that we come in contact with, everyone, we're all singing our praises, meaning singing our celebrating with our music, our dance, our traditions. And, the Colombians that asked us to help to make this a reality was their elders made that request, that we could shift the energy of the world if everyone did their indigenous ceremonies and practices. And they decided that that would happen at the winter solstice this past year, that we would create a ripple that would surround the world. And so that is what we're doing.
Intention.
That's our intention, and we continue to meet with that intention.
Is there another one of these gatherings?
Gatherings happen
Yeah.
on the new moon.
Every new moon.
Every new
Every
moon.
new moon.
Yep, every new moon.
Are aspiring vice
Of course.
presidential candidates
Absolutely.
allowed to
Yes.
attend?
Absolutely.
Really? It's open
done
to
on
the public?
Zoom.
Prashna
Yep.
can keep you in touch with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I would love to attend on the next new moon.
It would be phenomenal.